Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Well, I'm really thrilled for our finale keynote today, which is going to, and for those of you that are coming in, we have some extra seats that are on the far side of the room because I know we've run out on this side. Watching United Airlines under the leadership of CEO Scott Kirby has been the most incredible rise. And then one of the things that was enlightening to me many years ago is I was at a Skift Global Forum conference, and the first person to ever tell me, oh my goodness, I can't wait until Scott Kirby is CEO of United, is Brian Summers. And so listening to that as the perfect combination has been incredible to watch on stage because it's like watching two people battle to the death that like each other. It's wonderful because Brian pulls out the best in Scott because Scott always does his best under tremendous challenge. Please, a thunderous round of applause for Scott Kirby and Brian Summers.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe, for the great introduction. Let's be clear about something, Scott. You are a million times smarter than I am, and you absolutely know it, which is one of your charms.
I was just glad. I was afraid that Joe was going to say the person that said that was me.
Oh, well, it is known that you have a high opinion of yourself, but that's okay. There are some people in the industry that think this, but let's get right into it. And I don't know if Spirit is going to be watching this live and maybe live tweeting it or Xing it. I don't know if people know this, but you said some stuff earlier in the week. They got really mad.
Only say it when I'm asked.
Look, I think everybody in this room knows at this point your talking points about ULCCs. You can give them if you want, but what I want to know right now is what happens next from tomorrow on.
Thank you. That's a much better question. I think the future of, so I'm going to start with the U.S. and kind of then where the next phase is. I think we're still probably in the pregame. We're not even in their first innings yet, but we're in a world where we're going to settle on, there's two, United and Delta, there's two brand loyal airlines that are really focused kind of across the spectrum. That doesn't mean we're just focused on premium, but we're focused on giving an array of choices to customers from the price sensitive, they want basic economy, all the way up to people that are flying Polaris. And it's about having big networks, but it's not just about the networks. It's about having great technology. That's Zaggy right there. It's about having great technology. It's about great product. Seatback entertainment systems, for example, are really important to the customer experience. It's about great service. And most importantly, it's about how our people treat customers. I mean, there's nothing that matters as much as walking on an airplane. There's two flight attendants. I say they're the face of United Airlines that are standing there, that are happy, that are genuine, that are positive. And you can tell, you can feel the difference, and that care and that want to take care of you. And if you do all that, we've proven that you can get customers to choose your airline. For so long, like up until the last few years, most people still in the airline industry think air travel is a commodity, that all that matters is the schedule. If you parse through and listen to what other airlines are saying, I bet they said at the conference today. I read all the transcripts, and if you listen to what they're saying, they don't say air travel is a commodity, but the only thing they talk about is the schedule. The product is the schedule. They say stuff like that. And it's a really important part of the product. It's the most important part of the product, but it's not the only part of the product. So airlines that offer everything are going to have brand loyal customers, and that's going to be United and Delta. And everyone else is going to be competing for the more commoditized portion of the business. And by the way, even though the ULCC business model has failed, customers chose that they don't like it. There's a customer issue. There's going to always be low-cost carrier and price-sensitive competition. That has been the case since deregulation happened. It is going to always, some will come, some will go, but there's going to always be a lot of seats for that. But the market is going to have a couple of brand loyal airlines. And I think the thing that we're starting to think about at United is how do we move beyond this competition within U.S. airlines to the global stage more. And today...
Need government funding.
Without government funding. So today, 2/3 of the long-haul international seats to and from the United States are on foreign flag carriers, even though 60% of the passengers are U.S. citizens. So we have a huge trade deficit in air travel, long-haul international travel. And lots of reasons for that, but at its core, the biggest reason is, by and large, international airlines are quasi-arms of the state. They have various forms of state subsidy that allows them to fly a lot more seats, and they don't necessarily have to do it, often in most cases, don't have to do it profitably. We have an imperative of competing profitably, but now that we've sort of established this customer base in the United States, I think the next step for us, and I don't have the answers yet, is to figure out how to be competitive, truly competitive on the global stage, have a product that customers like as much. And when they're flying to the Middle East, they'd rather fly United Airlines than fly one of the Middle East carriers. And today we're behind on some of that product stuff. And it's not as simple as just putting the product on, because we got to do it profitably. But trying to figure out how we do that and really create an airline that all Americans can be proud of and think this is the best airline in the world, this is the greatest airline in the world, is what we're going to try to do.
All right, we will get back to that in a moment. There's a lot of news in this industry right now. Spirit, as we mentioned, has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection for the second time. In Chapter 11, they should be allowed to reconstitute themselves and keep flying, right? But what does Scott Kirby actually think that's going to happen?
Look, and I'm not trying to beat him up. I've been pretty clear about it for years. They didn't listen to me, so.
I don't think they like you very much.
I mean, off the cliff they go. They have a business model that customers hate. Like, you can't have a business model predicated on screw the customer. And that was the ULCC business model. On the cost side, it was a Ponzi scheme. And on the business side, it was bait and switch, surprise people when they got to the airport. And it's a fundamentally broken business model. And the consumer has voted. They're going out of business because customers don't like that product. And when customers have another option,
let's be clear,
they take it.
So you say that they're going out of business, right? They say they're not. They're getting smaller. They're rejecting some leases. They are working on their network structure, and they're going to be back, and their customers should fly them. Why are you so sure they're really going out of business?
Because I'm good at math.
All right, so what happens next? Do you and all your competitors sort of bid on parts of them?
No, I think there's there will be some airlines. I think Florida's going to be a bit of a bloodbath. Every airline, not every airline, but there's going to be at least, I think, 3 airlines trying to establish a #1 position in Fort Lauderdale.
And is one of them United Airlines?
No.
Are you sure?
I am sure.
Okay.
I know what we do is we fight battles from the high ground. You look at what United does. Everything we're doing is in our 7 hubs. We fight when we have the winning position. We don't engage in battles where we have the losing hand. We're not emotional about it. I don't believe in strategic flying. The graveyard of airlines is littered with headstones that say strategic flying. In fact, I told a news international CEO who came, who's sort of new to the industry. He was asking me for advice. I said, if anyone says the word strategic flying to you in a meeting, you should make them cancel that route or close that hub the next day, because it's just a rationale for doing dumb stuff. You can't be emotional about this stuff.
Okay, but what's the difference between what you call strategic flying and between what Glenn Hauenstein at Delta calls opening a new hub, going to Boston, going to Seattle, going to Austin, losing money for a while so that you can make a lot of money in 15 years?
Because you've got a track, you've got a path that you believe you can make money.
And you're saying there's no path in Florida?
Well, the path in Florida would be you have to put every other airline out of business. So I think it's be tough. And then let's say you succeed in Fort Lauderdale. Like, we looked at Fort Lauderdale as a potential hub for United. We had this, I called it a skunks work team. And I went around my direct reports and went to people the next layer down. This was in late 2020, early 2020. The pandemic was still raging, and I said in 6 or 7 years we're going to actually maybe have filled up our hubs. We hadn't even bought all the airplanes yet, but I knew what we were going to do. We're going to have filled up our hubs, and we're going to need new places to think about growing. So where would other potential hubs be? And I shouldn't call it a skunks work, because that's like top secret defense. I talk about it here. But I won't tell you where they all were. But Fort Lauderdale was one of them that we looked at. And the problem with Fort Lauderdale is not enough gates and not enough runways. you need at least probably 35 or 40 gates to make a South Florida hub work. And there's not enough there. So we're not going to, we look at that and like thought, oh, that would be cool. But then you go look at it and say, well, it wouldn't work.
All right, so
we
other
back
than
off from it.
some capacity going out of the marketplace, which is good for all airlines, how does United gain from Spirit just going out of business?
The truth is, it's not that big a deal to us. All the stuff that's happening in the industry, we're in this unique position at United where we're just running our playbook. And we're not going to really, we're going to backfill for customers. We already did it. And by the way, we waited till January to backfill the capacity for some of those Spirit markets because we thought, well, we're not trying to do anything, we're not trying to bully them or do anything mean. Like, we don't think they're going to be flying by then. So we waited till after they would not be flying anymore to add the seats.
It was very kind of you, the press release. Yeah.
In any event, we'll add around the margins there. But mostly what we're doing is we've had a plan for several years of how we were going to grow. Look, Chicago has been a much bigger issue. American added 100 flights a day in Chicago. You know what we did to change? Absolutely nothing. And guess what? Chicago's been our second best performing domestic RASM hub, the second and third quarter, our number one international RASM hub. Like, we're just running our, this is the great thing when you're the brand loyal airline, you kind of get to ignore what everyone else is doing and just keep executing on your plan because those customers stick with you. The brand loyal customers stick with you. And so it's really been pretty remarkable, and that we're going to continue to do that. And it really, on the margins, there'll be a few places we add flights when Spirit shuts down, but really not much, and they'll all be in our hubs.
All right, let's talk about Chicago for a moment. One of the great things about pilots, and maybe not great things, is they leak so much. They have these union protections, like they're not really beholden to anybody.
They're not the only ones.
And so you gave a speech to a group of pilots recently,
Yeah.
and most of the juicier stuff leaked. And I'm not sure what I'm about to discuss is the juiciest stuff. We'll get to that in a moment.
Okay.
But apparently you told these pilots that American was going to be in such bad shape in Chicago that they were going to close the hub. Did you say that?
I think the words were D-hub, which maybe is different than
D-hub,
close.
close hub.
At least those are the words that were reported. Look, here's just the facts. American is now losing on a run rate, is losing about $800 million a year in Chicago. Like, what I know is, I'm good at math again. You don't have to be good at math. That's not sustainable.
How are you so sure of that $800 million?
We're really good at, one, all the data is public. You have to file it with the DOT in arrears. We have very good data on what their current yields are. It's not hard. We're within a margin point or two, we can estimate the profitability of every other airline hub. And I know the profitability of all of our competitor hubs. I suspect I know the profitability of our competitor hubs more than at least some of the other CEOs know the profitability of their hubs. I pay attention to it. I know it. I know where they're strong. I know where we're strong. I know when to engage in competitive battles, when to avoid competitive battles. You need to know that information to know it. Like, look, they lose $800 million a year in Chicago now. You can see it in their financials. Like, look at their financials this year. They got $1.5 billion benefit back from their sales distribution, supposedly, and their margins are getting worse. Like, I'm not trying to criticize them, but like, they spent it in Chicago. That's what happened.
You know human behavior as much as anybody else. I mean, how hard is it to close a hub? You have to admit that you were wrong and wrong for a long time.
Yeah, that's the issue with airlines is ego winds up being really hard to overcome.
A lot of ego in this business.
But by the way, I've closed 3 hubs in my career. Glenn Howe, Sun, and Delta have closed 4. Like, there's a correlation between being willing to fold a losing hand. Like, any of you play poker? Like, you can't be a good poker player if you're not willing to fold. You've got to know when to fold them. Kenny Rogers had it right. You got to know when to fold them. But if you're not willing to, you just dig the hole deeper and deeper and deeper. And then the ultimate repercussions are bad. Like, Spirit could have saved their business but it was about 2 years ago that they passed the point of no return, was my view. But you've got to be honest about what works and what doesn't work. If you're not willing to be honest with yourself about what works and doesn't work, you're screwed.
All right, there was another thing that you told the pilots that's arguably a little bit sexier, at least if you like airplanes. And apparently you told them that it's quite possible that the A350 deal is back on. United, a long time ago, before you got there, had ordered A350s with Rolls-Royce engines. You pushed it back. sort of armchair analysis is you've pushed them back to never, but I hear it's back on the table.
Well, I didn't say it's back on the table. We've had a deal with Airbus and Rolls for 350s for long. We have kept pushing it back. But by the time we get to the end of the decade, we're going to start retiring. We will be well into retiring the 767s. And so, I'm reluctant to bring a new fleet type on, a whole bunch, all the cost and complexity reasons to not bring a new fleet type on. But as we were retiring the 757s, we're going to have to retrain pilots. We're going to have to go through a lot of that cycle anyway. So it's a natural time to at least think about, should you now actually make the 350, turn it into a real firm instead of continuing to kick the can. We do have a firm order, but should we turn it into firm, sort of in the 2030-ish time frame instead of kicking the can down the road? And it does turn out that our Rolls-Royce engine deal, which was a bad deal when it was signed in 2017, but because engine prices have gone up so much in the intervening 8 years, is now a good deal.
So you could get a steal on engines.
I wouldn't call it a steal, but we could get a less unreasonable deal
But
on
does
engines.
Rolls-Royce want to honor this deal, Scott?
Well, I'll keep that at the Rolls-Royce negotiating table for now.
All right. So I think before you talked about sort of strategy and the high ground and unwritten rules. I don't know if anybody here reads my newsletter, but I used to cover baseball, and so I love these kind of unwritten rules about how one airline pushes another airline back. One airline thinks that its fiefdom is the most. Yeah, exactly. So a brushback. And I happen to live here in Los Angeles, and for a very long time, right, as long as you've been in the industry, as long as I've been following it, Delta has had one giant hole in its network. Just didn't want to go on to Los Angeles to Chicago. I'm sure people asked for it, but there were probably some reasons they didn't want to do it. So they announced that in June, and then they announced Los Angeles to Hong Kong, and that's a twice daily route that you're flying. You're the only US airline flying that route. Does that piss you off?
No. I mean, really, this goes back to, well, one, it's 2 routes out of 6,000 flights a day. But it also goes back to, at United, like, because we have brand loyal customers, we're just executing on our plan. And Chicago is the best example, but kind of across the network, like, there's been a lot of changes in our hubs from what some people have added in some places. Chicago's the big one where people added. They've pulled out some in Denver. They've pulled out some in San Francisco. Others. And it really hasn't changed our plan at all because we're in this. When you have brand loyal customers, you're in this unique position. When somebody comes into the market, we retain our brand. We lose our fair share of the price-sensitive customers, but we retain the brand loyal customers. And it makes it much easier for us. And really, like, I at least don't think of us as involved in competitive battles anywhere. I'm entertained watching them. There's going to be one in San Diego now, one in Seattle. But I really don't think of us as being involved in those kind of competitive battles.
I'm going to take
needing to do brushbacks
or
needing to back off the plate when somebody throws one inside.
Okay.
The next one that's thrown inside is going over the fence.
One of the exciting things about the airline industry, at least for people like me, historically speaking, and I know that you say it isn't a big deal that Delta is starting these routes, but airlines do, of course they pretend they're not doing it, but they retaliate. So if one airline adds a flight in their market, maybe they dump capacity in another market. Maybe more likely, they fly Los Angeles to Atlanta and say, guys, get out of here. I haven't seen anything like that from you guys.
Yeah, because we don't need to.
You don't play that game?
We don't need to. So, really, it goes back to what I've said before. Like, when your plan is working and you're winning brand loyal customers, like, stick to the high ground, stick to the plan.
All right. Should we go to the passenger experience? I hear this is a passenger experience conference. I used to complain a lot about United's food. Linda Jojo, it was a bit that we had. It's gotten pretty good. And one of the things that I like, perhaps you had it today, is you have these salads. And the salads come with chicken on the side. And the chicken is a really good quality chicken. And I bring this up because in February, your CFO, Mike Leskinen, got on an earnings call. And he said, what's the impact of adding 50 million to food on NPS? Or am I going to sell fares for maybe $1 more because I improve the quality of chicken on my airplanes? And he kind of said, I don't know. Is that still the case, or can you measure
I
this?
think I don't remember it exactly,
Yeah.
but I think what he said, if you followed his whole train of logic, was you can't prove that $50 million drives $1 more of revenue or drives someone to choose. But when you put that and all the other things we're doing together, it does drive. This is the point, is and this is the mistake that some airlines make. You make each one of those decisions in isolation, in a transaction, like, is $50 million more for food going to, on its own, pay for itself? And the answer is no, so they don't do it. But when you say we're going to do that, and we're going to do technology, and we're going to do all this other stuff, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And so his point on that call was, like, you can't prove that $50 million makes sense. But I, the CFO, am supporting that $50 million because all of this stuff to doing collectively is causing us to win brand loyal customers. And our philosophy on this, when we go through the budget, we're doing the budget stuff right now, is I tell them, here's a budget increase for next year that is for the customer. At most airlines, when you're trying to cut costs, this is what happens at most airlines. When you're trying to cut expenses and hit a budget, like, you can't change the fact that airports are raising landing fees through the roof, and you can't change fuel. You've got a union contract. Like, there's just so much in the budget that you can't change. And so the things that you can change are the customer. And so it's really easy to go say, oh, I'm going to extend the meal window by 15 minutes, and that gets me $8 million, or I'm going to take this,
You may have done those things at US Airways.
I have done those in the past. I have done those in the past. But the realization is, I actually now do the opposite and say, no matter what the budget is, here's the incremental customer investment. You guys go decide what you think the best customer investments for these money are. But every year we're going to consciously spend more for customers in a bet that we'll just win more brand loyal customers. And we're not going to do a spreadsheet analysis. We're not going to, just like, I say, here's the number, and that's what we go do.
So Mr. It's Just Math is shooting from the hip on this. I think it works.
Some things are just math, and some things are much more intuitive, and you can't do them with math. And so you got to know what you can do with math and what you can't do with math. That's part of being good at math, is knowing where the limitations are.
All right, 2 CEOs ago at United, well before your time, there was a CEO that pulled global first class off the airplanes, and he said something to the effect of first class is a loser, forever. I know you're not technically bringing first class back, but my fellow podcaster Brett Snyder thinks that the United Polaris studio looks a lot like global first class. Why are you doing it?
Well, we are. I mean, I said earlier, I want us to figure out how to eliminate the trade deficit that the United States has in global long-haul service. And so this is a baby step into maybe what that looks like. We can't do it in a way that loses money. I mean, like, you can complain about Jeff Smisek, pulling global first class, but every other airline did it too, because U.S. airlines were losing money. And it's not just about the suite or the product. You also got to get the service and everything about it right to be competitive there. And you got to do it in a way that can make money. I mean, we look at the math for some of these international airlines that have really, really nice first class, and we're pretty sure we know they lose money. They don't care, but they lose money, and we can't do it that way. So we don't have the answers yet. I would call this, a dip your toe in the water to start experimenting in that market. One of the things we've realized in the last few years, though, is that the size of the brand loyal customer population is larger, certainly than I appreciated. I think than anyone appreciated. We just weren't giving them the brand loyal airline to choose. So yeah, they made their decision based on schedule and price because everyone was equal. Why wouldn't they? You had to differentiate before you could get them to switch. And so that's an interesting realization as well.
Do you ever think you'd be running an airline that was giving people a dollop of caviar?
I thought I'd be running an airline, and I thought I would trust really good people to say what's best for the customer.
All right. There have been a lot of successes about United recently. I think there's one thing that we're waiting to hear more about, and that's connective media. This idea that you can use the Starlink Wi-Fi and the in-seat screens to actually monetize offers to passengers. There was a story in the Wall Street Journal about it. You talk a lot about it. When are we going to see some results, and what are you excited by?
I am excited by it, and I know the results that we're seeing. We originally were going to share it more broadly, some of the numbers, but we're not.
I think you should, and I think you should do it right now.
But we're not, mostly because none of our competitors are copying us. So like, geez, like I think if they knew the numbers, they would. So we're not gonna, because they don't know the numbers. But really, it's more about the seatback entertainment system is just awesome. Like, and our team does such a great job at doing things fast. Like today, I flew from Dulles to Los Angeles to be here, and like a month ago, well, maybe 6 weeks ago, we were at my house actually with a bunch of us, and we were talking about the screens and the maps, and like, wouldn't it be cool if because there's long taxi times at airports, especially Chicago, like have long taxi times. Like, if we, as part of the moving map, we put a picture of the airport with all the airplanes where they are on the taxiways and stuff. And I didn't even know we'd done it. Let's see if our IT guys here. I got on the airplane today and like, whoa, this is so cool. But it's like little things like that that are just cool. And then when you land, you can see where you are in the taxi line trying to get to your gate. Like, it's just, it's a small thing, but it's cool.
All right, it is cool.
But the seatback entertainment systems unlock a lot of
The
possibilities.
thing that we want to get from you, and I understand that we're not going to get it today, is how profitable it is. But just give us an idea of how do you make money off those screens? Because showing the taxi line doesn't make you money.
No, well, it does, because that's like spending money on food. People think this is an airline I want to fly. That's cool. Like the app, it is by far the best app in the world. I assume everyone agrees. I had a U.S. congressman yesterday tell me that it's the best app, not the best airline app, the best app that he uses. Now, he's global services, so maybe he just wants to stay global services. But it was cool anyway. I can't remember what the question was. I got off on the app. The technology's cool.
Yeah, no, just where you're going to make the profits of the connected.
A lot of it'll be about, we'll be selling advertising, but instead of getting on the screen and you see the same advert, I won't say who, if you fly United, which probably most of you do, you see the same advertising over and over again. We're doing much more. I
really want to stay in America.
We're doing much more targeted, and it is incredibly successful with the brands that have used it, because we know a lot about the customers and we know what they're interested in.
It's a little creepy.
I'm going to make sure that I switch my wife and my son's seats so that he sees her ads and she doesn't see them.
All right, should we get back to some nuts and bolts here?
Okay.
You want to take a shot at a competitor?
Not really.
Okay,
but
so
I'm not good at resisting the bait.
Up until 5 days ago, everybody, I assume everybody, thought Avelo was just going to go out of business one day. And then they said that they got a cash infusion, and then they said that they're going to go out and buy 50 Embraer E2s with 50 options. And this is like an airline that's having a tough time. I mean, I got its financials recently. Why is money chasing these airlines?
This is my point from earlier. Like, there's always going to be low-cost, low-price competition in the market. Always. We don't need to worry about that. That's proof.
Did it surprise you that they did the Embraer?
Not really.
No. Is that still an airplane you're not interested in?
The problem, I don't want to bring another aircraft into the fleet, and the economics of that size airplane. It just didn't have enough seats on it, aren't great for United. And we operate in the biggest hubs, and so we've got more demand for big airplanes, so I'm really not interested in it.
All right, another competitor. There's this guy, Barry Biffle. He's the CEO of Frontier. I know that...
Great guy. He's hilarious, by the way.
Is he a good
He's
guy?
Really fun. He's fun to hang out with.
A lot of personality. Not great with media. Doesn't really understand me. But if you listen to...
You need to get a cowboy hat.
I do. Or maybe go hunting. All right. If you listen to the Frontier earnings calls, we can talk more in depth about his strategy, but a lot of it to me says we just have to wait this out. Yeah. There are cycles in this industry. long haul is up, long haul is down, premiums up, premiums down, and if you just wait for us, Frontier's going to thrive, United, American, Delta, Alaska, they're all going to be in trouble. Is that a too simplistic way to look at it?
I mean, maybe too simplistic. I think he's, and I do like Barry. He's a fun guy, but he's past the point of no return on his model, and so he's got to be all in on making it work. And I think his story now is he's going to be the last man standing. I think the quote that I read today on the week coming in was "last man standing amongst the ULCCs," which is correct. But he's the last man standing on a sinking ship. The business model doesn't work. I mean, they're next behind Spirit.
Okay.
It'll take time, but they're next.
So it's a bit of a basic question here, but I'm sure people in the audience want to know. People ask me this all the time. They say, well, it works everywhere else in the world. Why can't it work here?
So here, it doesn't really work everywhere else in the world. It works at Ryanair. That's the place it works. But Ryanair stuck to the low-cost carrier founding principle, which is we only fly to low-cost airports. They do not fly to London Heathrow. They do not fly to Charles de Gaulle. The low-cost carriers in the United States, Southwest was the first one, when they decided to abandon that foundation, they were blowing up their own business models. They cannot fly to high-cost airports, which meant they had to figure out how to stop growing. They needed to grow with inflation. But this was the Ponzi scheme point earlier for the ULCCs. None of those airlines ever learned how to manage costs. They learned how to grow. They knew how to grow fast, which caused CASM to be down, but they never learned to manage costs. And because of that, they were forced to grow in markets that lost money for them. Like, you know, the low-cost carriers, their average fare is something like $70, and the cost per employment in the New York area airports is close to 60. You can't pay the airport $60 and charge your customer 70 and have a business model that works. It's just math. It does not work. And so the real problem is they've abandoned, and it's not just the ULCCs, they abandoned the founding principle of the low-cost carrier business model, and they went into high-cost airports where it's impossible to be a low-cost carrier.
Okay, so you're flying Newark, LAX, they're flying JFK, LAX. You know what your competitors are doing all the time. How much is Frontier losing on JFK, LAX?
I've not looked at that market. It's too new. Frontier doesn't, it's harder to keep track of Frontiers because they're in and out of markets. They complain about not having loyalty, like they fly a market for 3 weeks. What do you expect?
Scott, we're almost out of time, but I want to see if we can get you to make some news today. But it's micro
Sorry to all the
news.
CEOs that are pissed off at me. Not really,
it's
but
micro news. Your SVP of Global Network and Alliances, Patrick Quayle. He's one of the most secretive people I know, and so I hear some complaints at United sometimes that not even the operations people or the airport people know where he's going to fly before he decides to fly there. But why don't you give us a scoop today and tell us where in the world United is going next that it has never been before?
Patrick has not told me. Patrick doesn't tell me because Andrew and Patrick think I'm bad at keeping secrets. They're right, so they just don't tell me. And the other fun thing, though, is Patrick, we started this, I don't know, I think during COVID, because we started flying to some new places. I think Accra was the one that I didn't get. But he sent me a deck. They had the airport codes, and like, you know, I was a network planner, and I'm pretty proud of my network skills, or think I have skills. Like, God, Patrick, like, you stumped me. I had to go on Google and Google airport codes. So now it's a joke with them. They want to, you know, come up with places. Nuke definitely made the list. They like told me the airport code. They were like describing it. Like, it was like 10 minutes of torture. I didn't get it.
Were you skeptical? I think it has worked.
No, as soon as they said it like that, it's super cool.
Yeah.
Literally and figuratively.
These new routes, the sexier new routes with the airport codes
Yeah.
that nobody knows, still probably nobody knows. There's the one in Taiwan, right?
Yeah.
Are they making money for the most part?
They are. You know, they don't all. Bergen didn't. But that's another, like, we're disciplined. Like, when it doesn't work, you know, we flew it one summer and then we pulled out.
Yeah. I would like LAX Auckland back, and I would like LAX Brisbane back. Can we do that?
Can you get us more gates at Los Angeles?
I'll see what I can do. They're
Okay.
probably here. You can talk to them. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Scott.
Brian.
I appreciate
it was great. I enjoyed it. Thanks, everybody.